Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Yeah, I'm still holding on. Yeah.
Yet holding on.
Yes, sir.
Keep my feet up already. You know, I really. Only he would come up with that.
Same thing we got in our pocket, or?
No, it's
31,
changed.
22 is new.
Yes, sir. We got a grant that we're up for that we got to sign up for. At this time, we're going to call the Board of Aldermen regularly scheduled meeting for June 14, 2022 to order. And we're going to call on the Reverend Connor Davis, the pastor of First Assembly of God Church, here at 1275 Mall Road in the lovely city of Camden, Arkansas, to lead us in our invocation.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day that you've given us. And God, we thank you for this incredible city that, Lord, we have the opportunity to live, to work, to serve in. God, as we gather tonight to conduct the business of our city, of our community, Lord, we just invite your presence to be here, to be evident, to be present in this place, to give wisdom, counsel, and direction in every decision and every step that needs to be taken. Lord, I thank you for each one of these leaders that are here tonight, Lord, to conduct the business of this community. I pray your blessings and your favor over them for the time sacrifice, the time to serve. Lord, I thank you for our mayor, Lord, for our city council, Lord, for every employee in the city of Camden, God, from our first responders, our police and fire department, God, our first responders, Lord, and our hospital, Lord, our doctors and nurses. Lord, I thank you for our city employees, God, that work diligently each and every day to continue to make Camden the incredible place that we know and we believe it is and will continue to be. God, we just ask that you would continue to move by the power of your Holy Spirit, Lord, in this place, that God, Camden would continue to grow, that Camden would thrive, that Camden would be a place where people can come and find the life, Lord, that I believe your word has intended and is established and is establishing in this place. We give you all the praise, glory, and honor in Jesus' name. Amen.
Will you please remain standing for our pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. You may take your seat. At this time, we're going to have our roll call by our city clerk, Ms. Donna Stewart.
Lindsay.
Here.
Askew.
Here.
McCoy.
Present.
Donald. Moore.
Here.
Argid.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Mayor Lott.
Present. Thank you so much. At this time, we will entertain a motion pertaining to the minutes of our regularly scheduled meeting on May 10th.
To approve.
It's been moved
Second.
and properly seconded. Is there any discussion? Those in favor use voting sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it for the minutes of May 10th of 2022. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of our financial report for the month of May of 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded Is there discussion? Those in favor, use voting sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it on the financial report for May of 2022. At this time, we're preparing for audience participation. When your name is called by our city clerk, Ms. Donna Stewart, if you would, come to the podium. And when you come to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Will you please start with your name and your address? And someone will help us with the time of 3 minutes. Will you help me with 3 minutes? All right. Ms. Stewart.
Miss Carolyn Oakley. Good evening. My name is Carolyn Oakley. I live at 528 Pine Street. I want to talk about Camden. I've just come back from Beltsville, Maryland for medical reasons. I want to thank the education that the different offices here provide for our community. And I'm going to start with our alderman first. Alderman Marvin Moore.
Yes, ma'am.
Has gone above and beyond the duties that he was elected to serve Camden. One Thanksgiving period, my garbage was not picked up. I called Marvin Moore about this particular problem, and it was on a Sunday. Mr. Moore took his truck, came to my house, and picked up my garbage and disposed of it. My children were here for Thanksgiving, and my daughter was shocked that an alderman will come and remove garbage from my garbage can that the garbage people didn't do. And I want to thank him for his service above and beyond. Mr. Cecil McDonald is not here. I don't see him. When he was elected, I told him some problems that I was having in my neighborhood. He went and got Mr. Franklin and came to the area where I had the problems, and he resolved them. I complained about the cemetery being unkept with the last administration. My mother died in 1990. Beginning with 1991, I was never able to put flowers on her grave because it was unkept. When Mr. Jenkins was over the parks, anytime family members came home, that cemetery was prepared for their loved ones to put flowers on their loved ones' graves. But with the last administration, it didn't happen. So Mr. Franklin has done a wonderful job on bringing that back to where we can put flowers on our loved ones' graves. I want to thank the fire department. I was in my son's home. I had a Epsom salt bag, and the steam set off the fire alarm.
You ran out of time.
And I asked him to call the fire department to see what the problem was. They refused because they showed me a ticket where they called the fire department once before, and they charged them $65 for a wellness check. I called Camden Fire Department, and I got an answer, and it didn't cost me nothing.
You run out of time.
We have where we can throw away medicine. They don't. department, all they asked us was, what was he wearing, what time did he leave? And they helped us to find our father. And I have access to Chief Woody anytime I have a problem. And I want to thank Camden for what they have done for our community. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Ronnie Atkins.
Hello,
Hello.
my name is Ronnie Atkins, 751 Allen Street, Camden, where our land and stuff is located. Problems going on in the neighborhood. We got the city notice to, clean up around the house and get it back to par. And we have a time frame to go in there and start doing some things. And Code Enforcement, Mr. Wooten, said that he wanted to he wanted to see you doing something there. Okay, so we hired someone to go in to clean up around that and start cleaning up so we can get started on what we need to do. There's a tree laying back on this corner of the house. We need to get clipped off and everything. And everybody just don't want to go that high to cut no tree. And we just didn't have that kind of money at the time, but we finally got somebody to cut it. But my main concern is, we had a tow truck service that was going in there on the land and across the ditches, behind fences, pulling our vehicles. And we were gonna use that money, once we got the trees to go down our own driveway, to start working on that house, putting it back together, which is my dad and mom's house. But they came on top of the hill up there and got 4 cars there. And you could stand up there and you couldn't even see a car in that backyard. You had to know what it was behind that house down there. They went through the neighbor's yard with a dozer and came across our backyard, pushed our fence down, and went back there and started pulling out vehicles. There's 3 still right now on the corner of Allen and Hogan where the dozer dropped them in. Because we got a call to come down there and see, because I want to know what's going on. And no one, when I talked to Mr. Wood, quote and unquote, he said that I didn't give nobody permission to go in the back of y'all yard to pull out no kind of stuff. Well, come to find out, he was down there when they were doing it. But the thing about it is, I wanted to know, when I went and asked him, could he get somebody to put it out there and we're going to take him on across the field, get him on out the way. He said no, he couldn't do that. I said, okay, thank you, sir. So I went to the police department, got over there. They failed to let me make a police report because of who I was filing it on. I told them I just want to make a report so I can have some type of evidence that I came and made that report. So you all refusing me of making a report? They said, yeah, wait a minute. They called the accuser. He came there, went in there. I'm standing outside with my wife and all, and they talked, and he come and got in there. Then I asked him another question. Do I get to fill out a police report? They said, no, you can't. I'm like, for real? So I just come to the meeting and leave it like that. See what's going on. What's up? That's all I want to know. I don't have no vendetta or nothing. I just want to know what's going on. Number one, I got signs saying no trespassing, and that's for anybody until I bring that land up the park. And then what was happening, cars was pulling out, and I don't know where they hit. They maybe cars were still. I don't know. But I know they're gone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Can
you,
I
sir.
ask him a question?
Yes, sir.
How many cars was it?
9.
9.
The 3 is still on the other property, right there on the hill, because the dozer that put them there, you can't get no regular truck to get them out of there because I tried Buddy, Callis, Anderson, they couldn't get them out of there.
So they were removed from where they originally was.
Right.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Michael Anderson.
My name is Michael Anderson. I reside at 430 Church Avenue here in the city. I have 3 questions of concern, being that I work all over the city, day and night. And I've been doing that for a lot of years here in Camden. And what I have been noticing, especially at night, in the predominantly black neighborhood, a lot of street lights are out. And I walk at night, I drive around at night, whether I'm in the wrecker or my dump truck. I know they have street light numbers on the pole. I don't know, should I call energy or is that a city's responsibility? But there are numerous night lights out. My next concern is, and I've asked this question, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, East Grinston. If you're going down toward East Grinston, it's a 90-degree turn. And adjacent to that turn is a drop-off, it's a ravine. And I personally know, being in the towing service, a lot of cars has gone over that ravine, off into the ravine there. And I've asked that a metal barrier be put in that 90-degree curve. I don't know if y'all think it's feasible or what, but I personally, I've seen a lot of wrecks there in that curve, in that ravine. And lastly, I own property at 764 South Adams, and in the front door there's a big hole, and in that hole is the city drain. It's like a city drain, and it's widening. Seems like every other week it's getting larger. And I've asked the state said no, that's Highway 7, but it's in the city, so that's the city's responsibility. And then I have asked the city, and this is my second or third time asking, and I was told that it's the state's highway, so it belongs to the state. But there's 2 orange cones around the hole. I don't know who sent them out there, but somebody sent them out there. So that's just a concern that if someone's walking through there at night and falling in that hole, they're gonna break a leg, hip, or something. There's no street light there at night, so I'm just attentive of those 3 actions. Thank you.
Was it 647 South Adams that you said? What was the address?
It's on the corner across the street from the city shop.
Okay.
764. On the corner there.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much. I'll give an account of the last month and talk a little bit about what lies ahead. We had the awesome opportunity on last month to teach a course for workforce development at NORDA, which is a national organization, and we work with SWAP-D and some more organizations to be able to go and to have an opportunity to speak to a national audience on behalf of the city of Camden. Also, last month we had the ORVA meeting, Washita River Valley Association, that we attended, and NRCS with the watershed program. For those of you who may have been keeping up, I'm a part of the Arkansas Black Mayors Association, and we were able to bring in $95.9 million to the state to fix some of the flooding throughout the state. And about 10 or 11 million of that will go to the 2 watersheds here in Washita County. So we're excited about being a part of that, and so we've been having a lot of meetings to get some of it solidified. The Cuffs and Hoses blood drive went on this month, and we had our first, not only, but we hope to be the annual Memorial Day parade. And today, of course, Mr. Winters is here, and we were very pleased with all that happened, all that occurred, and so we're grateful to him for initiating that. And it helps our community to better understand how things work here. A lot of times people say what the city needs to do, but because we make up the city, it's what we need to do. And so you put your feet to it, and I really appreciate that. Will you help me by applauding him for honoring our servicemen? And we're grateful for all of those who have served and those who made the ultimate sacrifice, but we're also grateful for those who continue to serve. We also had meeting with Winthrop Rockefeller Foundation, and we were able there to procure a $300,000 grant to help with ABMA and their continued works. And when I left that meeting that night, I had to be in Starkville, Mississippi, and I want to apologize to, I met a family there who was at the school, and it would have been impossible for me to have left Forest City and come back to Camden, so I kept going to the meeting I had to go to there, and so I apologize to whoever I offended in doing so. But if I were on my way to my house, if I left here and I was going home and I stopped at Walmart, it's legal for me to stop at Walmart on my way to the house. I don't have to go back to my house to get in my own car to come back to Walmart. And it was a similar thought pattern that I had. But I do apologize to those who I offended in so doing. I do pay. I'm one of the people who has to pay to drive a vehicle. And so when I pay to drive, I do want to say that I didn't mean any harm. And my credit cards, none of my cards work outside of the state. So my gas card doesn't work outside of the state of Arkansas. So whenever I have to buy gas anywhere outside of across any line, it has to come from my own monies anyway. So I apologize to whoever I offended in doing so, and I thank you for bringing it to my attention, and I hope not to offend you in that way again. So the Camden North Coalition had a vacation Bible school. I attended that. Also, we had a meeting because we're running out of space at the landfill. And as a result, we're having to make a decision to move further, but that's going to be an ongoing meeting, and we've got some work to do on that. And today just so happens to be Flag Day, and we celebrate that on today. Also, for those who are going with us, this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the Arkansas Municipal League is going on, and tomorrow we get to Thursday, I apologize, we will be celebrating Judge Phil Foster, and we're excited about him, and we're excited about all the work that he's done. Not necessarily happy that he's retiring, but we're certainly glad to see him get to do some things that he may want to do at this season in his life. And so we'll be celebrating him on this Thursday afternoon. So we'll come back from the Municipal League and then return for a meeting that night. Juneteenth is on this weekend, and on Friday will be the parade. On Saturday will be a 5K, and on Sunday will be a car show. And so we've had the opportunity to do some things in the past, and we're looking forward to what's going on in the upcoming weeks. We do plan to address some of the things that we've heard on tonight. As some of you may not know, when we come into these meetings, we're not necessarily obligated to respond because it gets in the way of getting some of the business covered that we have to. But we've heard your concerns on tonight, and it is our goal to get some of those things rectified, and some of those discussions we'll be having in the morning to make sure that these issues are covered. Thank you for listening. Our mayor's report for the month of May coming into this June meeting. At this time, we don't have any old business, so we move to our new business, which first we begin with resolution number 3122, which is introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 3122, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Camden, Arkansas, amending resolution number 3420, setting policy for employee health insurance benefits and for other purposes.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion on resolution number 3122?
Let me ask you, I think I understand this, like I said, the price of our self-reported insurance is going up. We need to adjust ours so to try to give some relief to our employees for their burden on it also. I'm trying to think that coordinates with the next resolution, 3322, that changes our budget for each of those departments. So before I vote on the one, let me, this one right here, let me ask about the complications that it comes on the next one, 3322. Because I see that it has each department, administration, city attorney, municipal building, public works, solid waste, and you figure up the amount of the increase of the budget on those items, totals out 44 grand that it's gonna take out of our budget to increase. Okay, but I was curious, the two biggest employee items we got are police and street, and they're not in there. Police and fire, and they're not in there. So, do they have some kind of separate thing that, or are they just?
No, Laura can answer, but I would say that was our question, and so that's not all the departments that are listed.
Yeah.
What we did was went through the budget to see where they were at so far this year for how much was budgeted. And due to probably staffing issues, the fire and police department are not at 50% as they should be. So there's a separate line item for health insurance, and right now we should be at 50%, and they're at like 35. So their budgets, they'll still be able to make the budget that was planned this year. So on 3322, that is only the departments
That we need to increase the budget. The other ones, the budget that we've got looks okay for now.
Anomaly.
Okay.
And Laura may have a better answer, but that is true, that's not all departments.
Is there a different?
No, I just went through and figured based on the different figures, and, fire and police, they were well under.
Okay.
So I didn't see any need to change theirs.
So there won't be a necessary adjustment for the next coming budget if we stay within the range of where we are now?
Well,
Yes, sir.
I think you're talking about for next year's 2023 budget?
Yeah, if the personnel, if he doesn't add the personnel that he needs, then we're gonna have to make adjustment to that budget.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
we will have to adjust that probably when we work on the budget for next year.
Yes.
I have a question, since Alderman Lindsay kind of jumped ahead, pertaining to the, department breakdown. I noticed the, significant difference in, just say, public works solid waste, from 40,000 to 70,000. $30,000 difference, and just say municipal building, you're just looking at $430. Is that a breakdown with personnel in each department, or how is that
It's the employee count.
Yes,
employee count?
Number of employees.
So that 430, that's just
one
the
person.
mayor alone by itself, or?
the,
It counts whether or not you're single or family too, right?
yeah,
It's,
it's single and family, and like,
Yeah, I just broke down the difference in each of the, you got 5 sections, and again, I apologize for, jumping ahead, but, you know, the 3122, section 1 through 5, you know, section 1, you got almost $2,000 difference. Section 2, you got almost $4,000 difference in the increase. Section 3, just $430, and 4, you got almost $8,000, and section 5, you got a $30,000.
it just all depends how many employees.
How many employees?
Single and family. I think there is an issue with like section 5, the solid waste department, there has been for a while. I think some of our employees are coded wrong, like I think we might have too many in, collection or disposal, and we need to go and sort that out.
So
But I
they'll,
can't do anything about it, I have to have personal action forms from them to change it in the system.
Yeah, well, again, you know, just asking a question. Section 2 is our city attorney, and that's almost a $4,000 difference. We just have one city attorney record. Okay. Section, ma'am?
Family coverage is what makes it.
Family, okay. In section 3, that's one person, and that's $430 only. That's family too, right?
That's
That's-
one person,
One person. Okay.
and it's just
Section-
for him. He has no family coverage.
Okay.
can we go back to that solid waste question for a minute? Are you telling me there are two separate?
There's disposal and collection under solid waste.
We've always been like that,
It has been.
is there any reasoning?
It's always been, I mean, it's just a matter of like when they fill out when they hire somebody, they might put them under collection when really they're under disposal and.
But we're in the same house.
And,
Yes.
and if I could, I'm thinking, I've poked into that some before.
Yes.
And sometimes someone that was started out at collection has to double up and go into disposal, so they're working.
Is
They're
that a
not-
part of the line of progression?
Well, it's just that if you're shorthanded, they'll fill in for one another.
Both are the guys that take the trash to smack over and the guys who do everything at the landfill. Collection are the guys who drive around after and pick up trash around. And I guess for how many years they've been separated into two different groups.
So with that said, Director Franklin, we have that many solid waste.
It's 17 guys that works in sanitation period. And you have a group that's, I don't know right offhand, you have a certain amount that's sanitation, that's collection, a certain amount that is disposal.
All right. Is there any more discussion on resolution number 3122? Those in favor, use voting sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it on resolution 3122. The next resolution is resolution 3222, which is also introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 3222, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Camden, Arkansas, amending the annual operating budget for 2022 and other purposes.
Move to approve.
It's been moved
Second.
and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on resolution 3222?
Yes.
Yes.
I've got, I wanna know what it is we're putting in, where it's going, and is there any discussion or consideration for vandalism and security?
All right, so you want to come? We're talking about the trace here, right?
Right.
Do you want to speak on that? Or?
Yeah, say it again.
So, well, what happened is Lockheed Martin is going to help and assist us with getting the trace fixed. We need to pay the money to go on and buy the bolts, the nuts and the bolts that were damaged over time in the rain, and in the elements when we should have put the equipment out. Now, when you ask about some of that equipment was not necessarily put up correctly, and because it was possibly not put up correctly, we got to go back, get it up, do that. But we need to buy those parts so we can get the trace to the place where it needs to be. The question of vandalism, I cannot speak on that one because none of this is cameras or anything like that yet. But what we are trying to do is get the nuts and the bolts to complete the trace the way it was supposed to have been done the first time, with all the exercise equipment and all of the playground equipment perfectly functioning.
So is this equipment that's already sitting out there somewhere, it's just not bolted down? Or is this new stuff that's been in a warehouse somewhere?
I think,
The answer is a little bit of both. Some of the parts are sitting over there at a warehouse. Some of the parts have been put up, but they've not been put up correctly. So it ain't well. It's no, it's not. You're correct. It's not done right.
Trying to find out what the deal is.
But by purchasing these parts, Lockheed Martin is really being a partner to us. And they're gonna reimburse, they're gonna pay back, they're gonna help us. They got some people assigned to do it. Our guys were not trained in putting up exercise equipment. These are some people who are going to follow the plan, do what it's supposed to be done, and we're gonna lend ourselves to the process once these parts are bought.
So,
One question,
Yes, sir.
well, I had two, you answered one about who's putting it up, but we hadn't had a problem with vandalism with the equipment that's already out there, right? I mean, I walk every now and then, and equipment looks pretty good.
I think the worst story I have is someone setting something on fire by that seat, right?
yes, they just has a little rocks on fire before it's tearing the equipment up.
Yeah.
You pretty much can't tear it up.
Okay.
so our biggest problem
On
was
down.
we didn't handle it as far as storage.
It was, when it was brought here several years
Yeah.
ago, say.
Okay.
We left it out in elements.
In elements.
Yes, and that's the biggest problem. They, we ended up losing some screws, and I'm not sure how many years it was, but it was outside for a long time.
It's been a while.
Yeah. And we went through now, we got every piece up together, we got it out in the open, and we have all the pieces to go to everything, we just don't have the nuts and bolts. I'm sure they're in the ground.
Are these standard boats?
I'm not sure if they were standard bolts, but we did go back to the manufacturer just because some of them look specialty items. So we went back to the manufacturer.
All right.
And some of them were also the seats, like the exercise equipment you sit on the seat, and it's like a spongy seat. And those just kind of wear out. And so a lot of that's.
Yeah, just one more question.
Yes.
Is Lockheed gonna cover this?
They're going
Or do
to.
we have to go back and cover this now?
From my understanding, Lockheed was gonna cover it, from my understanding.
They're going to pay back. After we cover it, they're going to give it back. Am I correct? They're not? He said no.
Definite answer.
They're
This
paying for
funding,
part and we're paying for part.
Okay.
And we still have the $15,000 left from the revenue that we purchased the equipment with.
All right.
So that money is being used to get the replacement parts that they believe they need.
So have we done a cost estimate to know we're in that $15,000 range?
I don't think we have.
Yes.
5,000 and something
there's
for the nuts
5,000
and
some change.
bolts.
And we'll also need,
The rest will be for concrete.
we'll also need some concrete from the
Yeah. All right. Any more discussion on resolution 3222? Those in favor, use voting sign of aye. Those opposed, use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it on resolution 3222. Resolution number 3322 is also introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 3322, a resolution of the city council of the city of Camden, Arkansas, amending the annual operating budget for 2022 and for other purposes.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Ready for discussion? We did it already. We already did it. Huh? All right then. So those in favor use voting sign of aye. Those opposed use voting sign of nay. Thank you so much for.
Just a question on that. I'm okay with it, but have we looked at what she was talking about as far as that department?
What she'll need is she'll need the actual department head, the key personnel, to sit with her, and they would have to go with the superintendents and figure out who's who, but it wouldn't keep them from still having to interchange. So we can, I certainly tell him again to sit down and get that fixed. Yes, sir. We will do that. Thank you. Mr. Director Franklin, will you sit down with her and get that fixed? Thank you so much. All right. Resolution number 3422 is also introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 3422, a resolution of the city council of the city of Camden, Arkansas, declaring firefighting apparatus obsolete and authorizing its donation to the Buena Vista and Two Bayou Fire Departments.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. We're ready for discussion. I want to say how noble I think it is. I do want to say that to some degree, by doing it to the fire departments near us, it helps our own area and our own community. And so this is actually a really good thing to be able to give those, as we've approved to getting all new for our own fire department. So thank you for your leadership, Chief Nash, and thank you for this idea. And it took a little bit of work to figure out how we could do it legally. So thank you for what you've done. So,
Question.
yes.
I wanted to ask, and I'm thinking I remember this from some of our budget that we went through about how, when I first read this, I thought, well, wait a minute, if it's good enough for them, why is it not good enough for us? But we said, oh, these are gonna be obsolete in a year or two, and we're just gonna replace our whole gizmo with the something. Is that what this
We
is?
got all our new packs in it, they're all
Okay.
up and in use. We kept, I believe the police chief had bought 3, is what the guys ended up pulling out and keeping. 3 of the other packs that were from 13, that still had a few years left on.
Right.
And kept those, and the guys are gonna use them when they go to rookie school. We're gonna use those. In these, probably, I would say 90% of the cylinders are out next year, so they'll have to go buy all new cylinders. They've got to be destroyed then. The mask, after next year,
which can still be used, but you're not gonna be able to get replacement parts. So they're gonna have to get online at places like eBay or whatever to try to find out. And then just the age of the others is what it is. And we, like the mayor said, try to get them to the department that's real close to us, that crosses the line and helps. I do want to say something for 2Bio, since I got that department up and going, that I don't remember the last time we had to go out there and make a house fire. Prior to that, we would have to make house fires out there for them, but they're really doing a good job out there.
So in other words, you guys have made a wonderful choice by replacing that equipment. It'll be out in the next couple of years. Those in favor, use vote. Any more discussion? Those in favor, use voting sign of aye. Those opposed, use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it on resolution 3422. Resolution number 3522. Introduced by the mayor. Sorry.
Resolution number 3522, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Camden, Arkansas, authorizing the mayor to settle a claim, amending the annual operating budget for 2022 and for other purposes.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and properly second. We're ready for discussion.
Yes.
Got a quick, go ahead.
Yes, sir.
This is, I've been hearing whispers about this for some time, but this is the first time I've seen anything official.
Yes, sir. They were working through Alderman Lindsay and myself, Director Franklin, Attorney Fry, and
So it was in committee in a sense.
well, we represented the city as best we could to try to bring resolution to the issue. And finally, this is the resolution. Attorney Fry is standing here for our questions. Yes, sir.
Well, so this does go back quite a long time.
Yes, it does.
Go back in history. So, prior to River Valley Community Federal Credit Union being constructed, there was a big ravine there. So there's no parking lot there, there's no building. At that time, there's just a ravine. The city has a storm drain that comes off of Cash Road, right there.
Stormwater outflow.
Our right of way would be at the edge of the road and extends out just to, 10 to 20 feet. Okay, right there at the side of Cash Road. Prior to there being a parking lot or a building, a culvert is installed, 36-inch 10 culvert is installed that hooks up to the city right of way and extends out to the rear of the property where it goes out. There is then dirt filled on top of it, and it just sort of remains a dirt lot at that time. After that, River Valley submitted a building permit application, and there was a parking lot constructed over it. Their contention is that the previous 36-inch pipe was constructed there, was put in by the city. Our records don't show that we put it in, but the records are incomplete at best. And the building permit does not really say anything other than just there is a pipe underneath there. That pipe has collapsed. It's in a section. In a prior administration, there were attempts made to go out and try and take remedial steps and try and fix it with doing a little bit of work at the time. That led them to believe that the city was going to help and was going to solve it. When I became involved, the problem was that the ditch where the pipe is located is too deep for any of our workers to be able to do anything. So at one point, city workers went out there previously, to actually be able to do anything, it's too deep, our workers can't do it. So you've actually got to hire an outside firm to be able to do something. So it's not something we can take in-house. So we then had discussions with River Valley of trying to find a solution, trying to do something. We're down to the point that we may be able to find a resolution. We don't have a settlement in place. The purpose of this is to be able to go back to the table where the mayor would at least have authority to make an offer, to come up with a settlement of the claim, and be able to finally resolve it. And essentially part of that is that the plan solution is to go inside the 36-inch iron culvert and install a sleeve on the inside. So you're sort of taking a sock and you're sticking on the inside and it unravels all the way. Well, for that to work, it has to come all the way back up to the city's right of way. So we have a few feet that have come off the street that are definitely in our right of way. We then have about 50 feet of concrete culvert, which is not collapsed, and is satisfactory, but, of the total 235 feet, if that method is used to repair it, that sleeve has to go the entire 235 feet. So it's actually gotta come up and come inside the concrete culvert of 55 feet, which is, not collapsed at this time. The only way to repair it is to repair the entire portion. So out of the total 235 feet, 55 feet is concrete, so we're trying to have a cost sharing with River Valley, where we both basically, sharing the pain and trying to get it solved once and for all.
Now, is this a permanent fix, or are we doing something to keep the flow going and kicking the can down the road?
No, we hope to be a permanent fix.
Hold on, let me get him for you. Yes, sir.
Yep, so again, you answered one of my questions, so we are kind of splitting the bill with River Valley.
Depending on, well, I would say, we would be less than splitting. Meaning the city's portion would be
Right.
less than splitting.
And
But sharing in the expense.
I do business there, is the parking lot collapsing? How they know that pipe under the parking lot is
Right, so
given?
so
Is it,
it's been covered up, so yeah, there are times when it's gone out there, and it actually does create an actual sinkhole.
I see.
And then they come out.
in the parking lot
In the parking lot, yeah.
of River Valley? I drive all over that thing. And
Be careful.
We got Mr. Hickson here from,
Yeah.
River Valley, we want to ask about the parking
Yeah.
lot, and I guess what steps they've had, how often they've had to do something. You wanna come on, Mr. Hickson? Come on.
Can I ask you a question before we swap over? He can come on. You gave me these numbers on the, extension of it, the 235 foot and the 55 foot of the main and that. What part of that 55 or the 235 that's really our liability as far as the city and our sewer system?
Well, that's what's at issue.
Yeah.
That's at issue.
So we haven't really identified what's our responsibility.
Well, our position is that we did not install that culvert, and that's River Valley's.
Who installed it? We don't have any records, right?
That's correct. So a contractor installed it. It was certainly before River Valley, because it was
Right.
there when they came in, the culvert's already there, and it's functioning at that time. So you've got a dirt parking lot, or a dirt lot, let's say, a dirt lot when they came in, and then constructed on top of it.
So
There is no record.
Would Mr. Richardson have it on his records?
Right, we researched the records, and there's no record.
That's not a sewer deal, it's a storm drain.
That's
Storm drain
correct.
outflow.
Yeah.
That's correct, not sewer system, so it's not part of the water sewer commission, this is just a storm drain
Yeah.
culvert.
so a contractor put it in, whoever it was, years back,
That's correct.
and tied into the city, and
That's correct.
we just being nice and
As a good
trying to do the
There may have been,
thing.
there may have been, I mean, there may have been an application at that time, but we don't have a record of it.
Okay.
I can say that, we've gone back, we do not have a record. The first record we have is of the building permit from River Valley, and it shows there already being a underlying pipe at that time. So it shows it existing, it doesn't say anything about who put it in or how it got there, we just know it was there when they built the new building in the parking lot.
And the reason I asked, I remember before they built that, when we had the old River Valley out there, when I was at International Paper Company. And I just remembered it was undeveloped land there. But I was just curious when I heard you all say that somebody put a outflow drain there, and we don't have a record of it.
And that's probably going to be, that was many years before, so when it looks as just a lot, and it looks as just vacant land underneath the ground, which I believe is gonna be over 16 feet down, is where this outflow pipe was existing, that's right. So once it got built up, by the time it looked like a vacant lot, it had to be years before that, because we're going back, it had to have been, this is prior to it being a culvert, it was an actual ditch and an actual
Right.
16-foot ravine.
But that's a major project, though.
I would think so.
All right. Is there any more discussion with Attorney Fry?
real quick, once all this get done, we will know what kind of numbers we looking at, and as far as the city's portion, whatever's agreed upon, right?
Right, well, we've got estimates, I mean, it's gonna be close to $100,000.
Okay,
for the
okay.
entire project.
Now, with this, what we discussing, it's not gonna open up a can of worms for as residential and tying in and storm drains and
Well, that-
yards and,
That's been the concern, but I would say
Yeah.
there is not another situation where we have a right-of-way coming off and concrete coming in a portion and then a, culvert coming in. I don't think we have the exact same circumstances anywhere else.
I've just talked with some constituents, not Ward 2 constituents, but they've complained about storm drain and their yard and this belong to the city and this, and I just wonder, are we opening up a can of worms?
We are certainly not trying to.
I understand.
That is a good
And
answer.
that has been the concern.
Yeah.
We've explained
Yep.
that, expressed that, but that's certainly our
That's a
concern.
good
That once we, but I think we're to the point that we have fought this for quite a while, and then
Yep.
point of, I guess we can, not do anything, and then we would have litigation, and I guess we would get a termination, and then we would maybe know how we stand on the other ones. But we're back down to the point that, yeah, we got down to where I think with River Valley being reasonable and trying to come up with a
Yeah.
solution, that we're down to the point of,
Yeah.
probably trying to find a way out of this mess.
Just be mindful that we are alive and Camden is watching. So,
Mr. Frank.
Mr. Mayor,
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I believe,
Franklin, Director
Mr.
Franklin.
Franklin, would like to address this issue.
Just so we understand where we're at, there is a church in town that has built a parking lot on our storm drain. The parking lot is already doing this. And I don't know if we're gonna follow the same situation with that, because it's our drain, and they built the parking lot on top of it.
Do we consult code enforcement before we start building? I know I did.
Well,
before
I
built.
think this was probably
Back.
what,
Yeah, it's way before. But to answer that question, we have literally had to go back and almost stop ribbon cuttings recently because there are people who are not coming through the city. There's another set of scissors in the city cutting that's not going through the Chamber of Commerce. And as a result of that, we've been having to go behind, and there are people who are angry with us because if your building doesn't pass code, we can't be concerned about the fact that you planned your scissor cutting day. The bottom line is the fire department said you don't have what it takes to open. So there are some infrastructure issues and other issues that we have to deal with in the city, and that's why it's so important that all of the businesses do come through the city. But we're looked at as not being business friendly right now because there's some people who are doing things and then you catch them doing them and they're angry about it because you caught them. So we will have some more issues that are going to come and we'll have to deal with those on an individual basis. We have been in meetings and meetings and meetings trying to find resolution. We finally come to a place of resolve. And I want to move forward with this resolve. And we'd have to look at some of these on a case-by-case basis. But by the time we get finished with a court case, it'll cost over the $25,000 probably fighting and going back and forth for how long? Because the bank ain't gonna run out of money to fight.
Well,
And I feel sorry for people. I feel sorry. Well, no. At the beginning of our discussion, it wasn't as pretty as it is now. And at the very beginning, well, if it's ours and you're not gonna help, we could close it up. Well, if we close up, the whole side of the city will be flooded. So we weren't in a good place. We have finally come to resolve. And it's taken a long time. And I don't know if you can appreciate how many meetings we've had to have over and over and over again to come to this place. I hope you can appreciate that. And we treat these on a case by case. And hopefully we won't have to see too many more of them. But if we're saying no to a project because the papers did not pass or because you can't afford a sprinkler system, it's bigger than us trying to stop your business. Ain't nobody trying to stop your business. We have to observe the laws and the codes because one day you may come to the point where you built on a drain. You didn't mean to. You didn't do it. The people in front of you did it. But it still costs our city today because of a decision that was made some years ago. Yes, sir. Let me catch you and I'll come right to you.
Well, go ahead, Mark.
And that's my whole question, is the keeper of the keys. Now, you know, I built a house here, and believe me, I was under the microscope.
Yeah.
I had them out there every day.
Well, Ben
Don't
is
do
hated.
this, don't do that.
He's
don't do
hated
this.
right now because he's trying to do that. What I'm saying is, we are hated for saying clean up your yard while your neighbor's calling us. So, but we're doing it the right way.
But if you do right and hold everybody to the letter of the law, it's not but one law. I can't bend it, break it.
But he just
twist
got
it.
here. And so some of the ones in front of him did what they were supposed to do, and everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. Somehow this one made it through the crack, and we got to resolve this one issue. And we have to deal with these on a case-by-case basis. I can't promise that nobody's going to come next month. But what I can say is, in this particular instance, we've exhausted everything I know how to do to try to get to a place of resolution. The only thing left to do is go to court, let the judge determine it at some cost that I may not know of right now. When at this particular point, we've exhausted it. Yes, sir.
Let me make I guess a couple of comments, and I think what like I said, I've been working with River Valley, whatever, discussing this for a couple of years, I guess. And let me say, I think what we're doing here is we are giving the mayor the authority to sign a contract with them, an agreement, a settlement, up to 25 grand that we would pay for it. And then it's them. They can spend 100,000 or 100 million fixing the problem however they want to. But we're just saying, hey, this is our part. We bore some responsibility, but I think both of them out there representing River Valley will tell you, I told them, y'all bought a pig in a poke. That really ain't our problem. And I'll say to Mr. Franklin, this church, they bought a pig in a poke. It's now, you know, maybe we can help them some way. I'm all willing to help them. But just because they bought a pig in a poke, it's not our problem. The same way with the people that buy these houses and lots from the state land. They got them so cheap, and then they want us to write off the thing. Well, they bought a pig in a poke. Some of them are playing, some of them didn't know, some of them are playing stupid, I think, and using us for the fool to tear the house down, and then they get it for nearly nothing. But anyway, that'll be my position going forward on these case-by-case basis. But I'm for this resolution.
Mr. Hickson, you wanted to make a statement? Yes, sir.
I got a question. I heard what Mr. Lindsay said for this land that was bought through tax or whatever. Well, so if you have a prominent neighborhood where residents stays there, and they have a drainage issue, and they have a plumber, and the plumber says that it's in the street, and so.
I'm gonna say that's a different deal. That's talking sewer,
Okay.
not storm
storm
drain
drain.
versus sewer, I think.
So what is the manhole considered? Drainage or sewer?
That's sewer.
Okay, then, that's what I'm talking about.
This is, this is really just a
Storm
rainwater.
Stormwater
Rainwater
outflow.
that comes off of the side of the road, when it comes down
So-
the side of the roadway right there.
So when it rains and the constituents' bathrooms, sinks, and the kitchen, everything backs up every time it rains, they don't prominent neighborhood. So it's their responsibility. I'm just asking a question because I'm pretty sure, like Mr. Askew said, it's live. And so when they come and say, well, okay, it doesn't matter whether it's a pig in a poke, if you gave them X, Y, Z, well, how come you can't give resident Jack X, Y, Z?
Right.
And so,
Well, I would say that we've got multiple claims outstanding at any one given time. So we have multiple claims against the city for various things, that are evaluated and reviewed. For a toilet that is backing up, that's going to be a totally separate issue, because it doesn't mean it's not a claim. It just means that is going to be a sewer system. So they've had several like that. They developed a policy, the Water and Sewer Commission, where if someone has water sewer backup, that we have a RPZ.
Backflow valve. I started that.
So they have a $500 cap, if I'm not mistaken, but they have a claim process where an individual files a claim with the Water Sewer Commission, and they have a $500 cap. We provide the backflow prevention device. Person has to pay for the plumber to install it. We provide the device. So there is a process that is probably closer that they have dealt with a lot more than this, but that is a claim. If someone's got a claim, then yeah, there's got to be a way of trying to resolve it.
So if they say, just say for example, hypothetically, if they say that's not this month, yes.
Then they would contact the mayor's office and get the meeting and we sit down with the water department, because some of this is, I would not say technical, but I certainly can't speak to a particular issue, because you've got a difference between a sewer backup and between just stormwater. So I mean, those are just two totally different things. So it is possible if someone says this is where it's backing up, or we had the Cash Road, off of Cash Road, the ditch, and the drainage ditch, and it not being cleaned out properly, and it causing, citizen's yard to dissolve in the back. So what would happen is when someone says, here's the problem I've got water coming up, you're gonna have someone that's got the technical expertise to get out there and look at it, and it may be that if the water department goes out and says, well, this isn't a sewer problem, I would say, they're gonna know the answer. So I would say generally, I would agree. If someone went out and looked at it, and they said, this isn't a sewer problem, that's not gonna be a sewer problem, because that person's got the expertise, that they know which system. The homeowner just says, I've got water coming up. Be kinda like me, I know I've got water coming from somewhere, but if you're talking about a toilet backing up, to me, that sounds like that's gonna be a sewer problem, but they're gonna send someone out and say, oh, no, it's not really a sewer. If it's just happening when it's raining, that may be drainage around the house, that may be coming off the gutters, that may be coming down the side of the house, so
I don't, they were saying to me what the plumber told them, so it wasn't them out of their own,
Right.
intellect.
Then it would be their plumber, it would be that plumber talking to, our, technical expert at the water pump. So yeah, because they would be able to talk about, backflow preventers and which line connects it with which, and where it goes to, and where it's coming from, and there's certainly room for someone to come to Bridge City, but that wouldn't be something that we would be able to.
Mr. Fry, I really believe that, and Mr. Richardson and I have worked extensively on this over time. They are a lot better, but their problem was their backup pump systems. And if they don't kick on, the low man gonna get everything's coming. And that's what happened to me. And you're trying to ask me which came first, chicken or the egg, the rain of the backup pump that didn't kick on. It's called a booster pump. At a certain point, at that plant, it's gotta have a booster pump kicking on to carry the load, because of the rain too. And it didn't happen. And I got all kind of excuses about it, act of God, one of my kids put something in the downstairs sewer, and I knew what it was. That's what I do, I deal with water.
Point of order.
Yeah.
All right, we're calling for point of order, so we can get back to resolution 3522. Mr. Hickson, did you have a comment on?
I do not have a statement, just available for question, if there is a question.
Is there a question at all concerning River Valley? We're ready to take a vote, if we're finished with discussion on resolution number 3522. Those in favor, use voting sign of aye. Aye. Those opposed, use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it on resolution 3522. Thank you so much. We're at resolution number 3622, which is also presented by the mayor.
Resolution number 3622, a resolution amending the city's and rescue grant budget for the purpose of claiming revenue replacement funds for police and fire salaries and employer payroll contributions.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Ready for discussion?
Yeah. Somebody got some explaining to do.
Oh, yeah. This is actually good news, sir. You're gonna love this.
It sounds good, but
You're gonna love it.
we're going back into 2021 budget.
You're gonna love it.
So what happened is with the American Rescue Plan Act funds, the Treasury Department had an initial rule that came out on how the funds could be spent, and then had an interim rule. And the way it started was municipalities and cities and towns were all given a certain amount of money that actually was awarded to the city. And the city would apply for and say, here's a specific project that we want to fund using the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan funds. Through the process, the Department of Treasury and receiving comments back from representatives and elected officials, they lowered the requirements to have those projects approved. And eventually, at the final rule, what came was in the legislation that they passed, but as the Treasury worked through the rules, when it came down to the end of it, they said, well, for cities that get less than $10 million, which we would get, so the city gets less than $10 million, they can claim revenue replacement for all of the funds that are received from ARPA, a revenue replacement, because without having to show a specific project, without having to show a specific loss of revenue, but just if you're getting less than $10 million, we're not gonna make you jump through all these extra hoops. You show us how much you spend on your budget for police and fire salaries, because that's a legitimate expense to cover fire and police salary. And so in this case, we have enough in our previous budget that the ARPA funds are essentially paying and satisfying the previous budget for police and fire salaries. That gives us a surplus to the general fund of the $1.1 million. So it's the same money, and it's not that the police are paying for our other projects, or that we're using police salaries to do it. It's that the mechanism is that the federal government is saying, we will give you $1.1 million to cover the loss of revenue that you had during the pandemic that you spent on police and fire salaries. So if you can show us you paid your firemen, you paid your city police officers, we will recompensate you, we'll cover that expense of $1.1 million. That frees up $1.1 million in the general budget. So
Is this a combination?
Yes.
Combination of the?
Yes, it's a combination of both, 50-50. And, but we're not really taking it from their budgets, because they still get the same amount, so it's not like they would get the whole amount. It's that we are transferring that extra ARPA funds into a special fund that we're still going to spend them as the council dictates. So we've still got the $400,000 water tank project, we've still got the LED lighting and generator for the police department, and the Chamber of Commerce renovations for $30,000. So that's what the council has approved.
Right.
So that's still approved, and that's still being paid out of it. It's just that instead of having to go to the federal government and say, we want to spend $100,000 on a generator and LED lighting, they've already said that $100,000 is a part of the 1.1 that we gave you.
Okay.
And so you're already covered on that. That was loss of revenue. The city council still has to approve how to spend the funds, and we still have to comply with state rules and laws, as well as our local ordinance on spending. So we can't spend it on, you've still gotta have a bidding process. We can't spend it on something that's not lawful, but it's in our general fund, so it can be used for any lawful purpose. So it just frees the council up, instead of having to take a particular project and go through federal procurement and say, here's the particular project we want to spend the money on. That money is in the city general fund, and the city council gets to dictate what projects it gets spent on. And as long as it's a legitimate city project, then we'll spend it out of there. And so,
Let's, just an example, would our pool be eligible?
say it again?
Would the pool be eligible?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me catch his hand. Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
To be clear, they're not giving us an additional 1.1 million. This is the money they've already sent
That's
us.
correct.
It just frees us from a lot of the restrictions.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That's a good quick way of saying it.
Okay, so, you're talking about it sort of in this year's budget and our budgeting, but it actually, you're amending the 2021 last year's budget. Because the money was in last year's thing, it was just extra revenue, so
And so sometimes, so it created a surplus from last year that carried over.
Right.
And it actually goes from March the 1st of 2021 to March 31st of this year. That if you didn't have enough in salary, sometimes you would have to come over into this year
Right.
and it'll show we had it.
Well, we had it
Our
last year.
expenses are high enough for our fire and police, and we had enough in that budget. So we're kind of going back and saying that we have.
So if we had already included it in our reserve funds for 2021, we'd already done that, I'm thinking, didn't we? This ARPA money, it was rolled over into our reserve funds from last year.
It was in a special account.
Yeah.
Right.
So is that what we're amending, putting it from the special account into our?
It is still gonna be a special account, but it's gonna be general. Meaning that the
It was in
transfer.
general fund last year, though.
Well, the transfer, when it is ARPA funds, when it is designated as an ARPA, the Recovery Act
Yeah.
funds, we have not not removed any, when those funds were gonna be removed, we would have to file a report and say, we spent $100,000 on the generator.
Okay.
The report we will file now will simply say, we spent $1.1 million on replenishing our salaries for police and fire as loss of revenue.
Okay.
Period. And then that report with the federal treasury is completed.
Okay.
So essentially, I think everybody working on reports and coming up with different ways of doing it, and I think by us holding off, we probably our advantage, because eventually they figured out that if you're in what's considered a small community, which is less than 10 million,
Yeah.
they don't wanna see where you're spending your money on.
So we're doing basically a line item shuffle for
That's correct.
2021. That frees us up to spend the money in 2022.
That's correct.
Okay.
And then there will be one final report to treasurer that says we spent it to replace the revenue, and so we don't have to detail the individual projects to them. Now, we still have to detail the individual projects to the council, and we still be in the budget to say, this is what we're gonna spend it on. The council still has to approve it. We still have to do, competitive bidding on most of those, but we're not having to satisfy any of that with the federal government,
Okay.
because we're just showing it as one transfer to them.
Right.
That makes sense.
Is there any more discussion on resolution number 3622? Those in favor use voting sign of aye. Those opposed use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it on resolution 3622. Resolution 3722 is introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 3722, a resolution of the city council, city of Camden, Arkansas, approving the appointment of Will Cooper to the Water and Sewer Commission.
So move.
Second.
Been moved and properly second, ready for discussion. It's always good whenever we're having these meetings when the people who are on the agenda are actually present. Mr. Cooper, will you please stand on your feet? Mr. Cooper is here on tonight, and we're happy to have you, and thank you so much. You may take a seat. Those in favor use voting sign of aye. Those opposed use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it. Welcome to the commission. Thank you, sir. Resolution number 3822 introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 3822, a resolution of the city council of the city of Camden, Arkansas, awarding the bid for the purchase of oils and lubricants for the remainder of 2022.
Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Move.
Second.
Properly seconded. We ready? Ready for discussion? Those in favor use voting sign of aye. Those opposed use voting sign of nay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Resolution number 3922, introduced by the mayor.
Resolution number 3922, a resolution of the city council of the city of Camden, Arkansas, commending and thanking Judge Philip J. Foster for his service.
Is there a motion to approve? So moved. Moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? Want to remind us that this will be on Thursday at 2:00 p.m. They're on Good Game. Those in favor use voting sign of aye. Those opposed use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it. Thank you. And resolution number 4022, introduced by the mayor. Signed.
Resolution number 4022, a resolution authorizing the submittal of an application for ACEDP grant funds to the state of Arkansas.
Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Moved and,
Second.
all right, we're ready for discussion.
Discussion.
Yes.
I'm curious, we get this at 4:30 on Friday afternoon, or Monday, or Tuesday afternoon before the meeting. And I know we've had this thing come up with, well, if you want to put something on the agenda, you've got to have it in by noon Wednesday, or you can't get it on there. I'm trying to think, now, who does that apply to? Just us? Or everybody else?
May I?
Well, I think that's for me first, and you're welcome to come. Come on, but I will, to be clear, we're at the mercy sometimes of those who help us with the grants. And I got my phone call just before we okayed it when they said we needed to get it done right away. So I have asked Attorney Fry, how does he feel about the rush and stuff like that? And he's comfortable with it, because he said the things that are on here, things we're already doing, but they need us to pass it. They need motions in order for us to begin this process of going after the grant. So it's just simply saying we're going after it. we're going to apply for it, but the pressure was put on him yesterday. He called me and asked if it would be okay because it's Swap D that's helping us, and they've helped us before. It's a CBDG grant, something that, you know, we get to apply for one of them per year. And so I just said, well, hey, you know, let's give it a shot. So I do apologize that it was last minute, but he was under the gun by her, and I was under the gun by him. If we were going to go after it, we needed to do it now. It was not intentional. Each Monday or each time we get ready to come to one of these meetings, I do press our guys to make sure that their stuff is in early because they work here 5 days a week. I tell them, yours ought to be here before anybody else's because you work here. So we've been trying to do it the right way. He got caught under the gun this time. So I apologize for the inconvenience. Yes, sir.
All right, the rush on this one, as the mayor stated, is for the newly Camden Timbers mill, which used to be Victory Lumber. And this grant is for communities of our size and population, that if a company come in and create 45 jobs or more, then they would get help from the Arkansas Economic Development Commission. So someone from the Arkansas Economic Development Commission called SWAT D yesterday and said, hey, this will fit Camden, let's get it going for them. And they called me yesterday and said, hey, you gotta get this resolution approved tomorrow night. I said, I can't get a resolution approved. But here we are, after talking to the mayor, here we are. And it's a $240,000 grant. And it will help them buy equipment and get set up. And it's some criteria that goes with it. If it's in, they got a couple of years to produce so many jobs. And there's a lot of guidelines in that for them also.
So that'll bring 40 to 45 jobs to our community.
Right.
And so being the last minute, I was compelled that if we could get some jobs here and that job could get help coming here, and they have to produce, that's the clause. It's got to do what it's supposed to do. And so once they do what they're supposed to do, all of us are better for it. Yes, sir, I'm sorry, continue.
Here's a letter from Rick Ray, Vice President of Operations, Camden Timbers, LLC. And also, putting the cart before the horse, but also we've got to have a public hearing on this particular grant. And so we scheduled that. We couldn't schedule it tonight because there's so many calendar days you have to have for the public hearing. So we'll have a public hearing on the 21st. At 6:30 p.m. right here. We're gonna kill two birds with one stone. We're also applying for a Parks and Tourism grant to get some repairs for Sandy Beach. And we're also gonna have that public hearing on the same night at 6:30 p.m. on the 21st of June. And Parks and Tourism, it's just like the same grant that we got for the community.
Collins Park.
Collins Park. And we, CBDG funds, it's normally non-matching. And $240,000, I mean, we gotta do what we gotta do to go get it.
Yes, sir.
Any other?
Is there any more discussion pertaining to resolution number 4022?
You know, and I'll say for the time, there's times where you need to do that, but like I said, I think be mindful of before we turn anyone else away carte blanche when they call up and say, can I get a resolution? Well, you know, if it's important, yeah, let's see if we can't work it in. Because I noticed in our municipal league magazine that we got last week, it had a page in there that says, oh, and you, maybe it was a CDBG grant. Well, it's due June the 15th, and I thought, gosh, they only give you a week's notice to, not quite enough lead time for me to do some of that paperwork.
Really, somebody has to be sitting there monitoring, and we just kind of, they knew us, they knew what we were trying to do, and they was looking out for us.
Thank you so much.
Sir.
Those in favor, use voting sign of aye. Those opposed, use voting sign of nay. Ayes have it on resolution 4022. Is there any other business before the council on tonight? Yes, sir. Let me catch him first time.
Real quick, and not to put Director Franklin on the spot, but the phone is ringing off the hook. Can't go anywhere without people asking about the pool.
Yep.
And so they want to know about the pool. And you know, again, just for the record, I know people are watching Facebook Live and this and that, you know, get it in the bug. Yeah.
So your question is, what are we gonna do about the pool?
Yeah, they want to know, is the pool gonna open? If not, when are we gonna fix it? How long is it gonna sit dormant? You know, what are we doing?
All right, I've had to talk with a couple of you guys. This summer, we pretty much worked on the pool. 50% of the time, we worked trying to get the pool going. We jetted we tried to get the jets fixed. We did everything except dig the asphalt up, concrete up around the pool, but we got the motors replaced. We got them rebuilt, we got them back, turned them on, and none of the pumps work. We can't drain the pool. I've done everything I can physically to get it going. I think it was built in 1954. I think we're married to the splash pad, and my suggestion was not to close the pool forever, because I think that's not me, but we gotta come up with a plan to either rebuild it the same size, go a little bit smaller. I went to El Dorado, talked with their public works director. They don't have a pool now, they filled it in. Some of the same issues we got, they got. And they're just gonna rebuild it, start over. It's more issues than what you guys are just riding by looking, you really can't tell. The first year I came, we did operate it, but we operated wrong. I actually poured chemicals directly into the pool. It's supposed to go in a well, filter itself in. Well, the well doesn't work.
Yeah.
So to make it work, I personally poured chemicals in the pool. That's dangerous doing it that way.
Yeah.
But that was the only way we can get it to work halfway decent. So my suggestion is, again, we form a committee, or we don't have to have a committee, but we need to figure out a plan and have it, do it this summer, so next summer we can.
So we need to kind of come together, put our heads together, and kind of plan for next year.
Yes.
And really, yeah.
And the assumption with the 70-year-old pool, the assumption was that we would be able during COVID to get some things rocking and rolling. But nobody was moving during COVID, and those who were moving had enough work near them that they wouldn't even consider coming here. We tapped into relationships at Lockheed Martin, we tapped into relationships all over that we could find, trying to get the help that we needed because, you know, of course, this, you know, I was excited about the pool opening myself. I can't wait to get in my Speedo. And so I was trying to do that. And
You trying to get in your Speedo?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we were doing everything that we possibly could, and it just didn't work out this year. And we do want to do an ad hoc committee to just sit for a little while and figure out if going smaller would be more manageable, if we can find the grants. We've been doing really good with finding grants and looking for grants. There's some people who want it closed in. We have more ideas, but we're gonna have to do something different, and it's gonna take the community working together to make that happen. I will say that if you are a parent and you have children, don't allow them to say there's nothing to do. We do have several parks, and we do have other things that children can do in the summer. And the pool, what ended up happening, and we've even had, sometimes we're having to close the restrooms down. We just had an incident this week, and we're cleaning the restrooms up 3 and 4 times a week. So if you see people vandalizing or doing things harmful to those areas, it keeps us busy when we don't have to be. And so someone put fecal matter on the walls and stuff like that. And this is our city. This is our town. We need your help to keep the stuff that we do have working. And when you make us have to go in on the weekends and clean up, because we got to clean that up, then those are more hours. That's more money that we're spending. And they don't mind working. They have job security as long as you have kids. And then for those parents who are leaving their children thinking it's a daycare service, it's not. You need to stay there with your kids so that your children are not wreaking havoc. Every time we replace the button, it's $1,100. And we've had to replace the button from people riding the button. So we do need our community to recognize how to respect the things that we do have, and we do need a committee or a group of people who's willing to sit together and to wrestle with this thought until we come to a good resolution. And we go searching for those grants as we have before, and we've been doing well with free money.
So even with the grants and, you know, we talk about this COVID money, stuff that we doing like with the Teen Town and stuff, I mean, and we have made plans for the pool, you know, and so, I mean, we just need to sit down and put our heads together.
That's right.
Also, talk to you about some low-hanging fruit concerning the Teen Town, which is one of our cash cows, not the cash cow. You know, it's fixing to be reunion, summertime, this and that, but we did look into that little stuff.
And with, for Teen Town,
Community center.
the community center, that's what we're moving to, the community center concept, and we're gonna have to shut it down for a while because we're getting ready to do some of the work this fall, right?
Right now, we got a committee formed to accept, pick out the architect firm. When we were gonna use A&P commission, where we were gonna be able to kind of handle it in-house. Since there's federal funds, then we have to go from point A to get to point B.
So is it gonna be shut down this summer?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay.
We're looking at the fall, right?
Right.
Yes, sir. But we have done some of the things, some of the fixes that were easy fixes.
Yeah.
We've made some of those adjustments already.
Right.
Okay.
And so the answer to your question is, yes, we have done that, but we do have a plan of making it a community center really soon. Yes, sir. Let me catch him.
I guess, two things, really three. One, that I was gonna mention is, I've asked Mr. Franklin, had been looking over the budget, knowing what gas prices are doing, and we figured on what we knew in the fall in our budget. And if y'all would, just take a look at, I'm gonna say you're probably the biggest gas user, fire department might be second, but say, how many gallons are you figuring on and seeing what, I know that we're gonna have to up the budget for that at some point, and I just would like to know, is that gonna be a $30,000 hiccup or a $90,000 hiccup?
I don't know right now, but I have this in adjusting.
Okay.
Like rainy days, you pretty much won't see us out doing anything. We clean the shop up, we clean vehicles up, we park the vehicles. We don't let it's not one guy, you'll see a group of guys in the truck, so we're parking as much as we can to keep it down on gas. So we are making some adjustments ourselves.
But you're just caught in the thing of we were figuring on
Yeah.
$3 gas and it's gonna be $5 gas. Now, second, I was gonna say regarding the pool, I'm in the same lurch everybody else is, of what's the best way out of this pickle. But I was mentioning to y'all, my